Man, I am an idiot. Oh my God. Future reference. Don't be idiot. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Anyways, full steam ahead. We're going to go ahead and crank this bad boy all the way up to a strong, vigorous boiling temperature. Set. Oh, man. In the grand scheme of things. Hey, Mitt. Hello, everybody. Hi again. Good to see y'all here. Sorry. I don't know what happened with the last one. Well, I do. I'm an idiot. I'm also, like, not only am I an idiot, but I'm also insanely clumsy. So while I was getting down to show y'all or try to put the mic next to the mash and boil as it was kicking on its heating coils, I tripped over the wires and I almost destroyed my laptop, but I ripped the camera down. I ripped the mic out. Absolute massive struggle. I think I know I've said this earlier, but I think I'm just going to have to invest a little money in getting a more static setup for the homebrew live streams going forward. Like I said, this was a learning example. This is my first stream ever, so we're gonna get through this. I just really appreciate y'all hanging in with my lack of brain cells. But to catch y'all up, I have gone ahead and I have ripped the temperature up to a solid 220 degrees on this bad boy. But don't worry, I know it looks crazy right now because the brew bag's in it, but it takes a while for it to heat up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lift up the grain basket. We're going to do some quick fly sparging as it continues to heat up the actual wort. So we're killing two birds, one stone here. That way we can kind of expedite this process a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and lift the basket now. That way we don't melt the basket in. And let's see how it goes. We got to make sure that these rivets are balanced perfectly on there, because one time I wasn't paying too close of attention and it was slightly off kilter and the whole thing just collapsed, spilled the beer everywhere, just absolutely devastating. So let's see, let's get the camera in here so y'all can see what this malt bill looks like. A lot of foam on top, so still a lot of sugar and a lot of protein that we can get down into the kettle itself, as well as getting rid of some particulates down in the vessel itself, back into the grain bed. So that's the beauty of sparging, I'd say. Absolutely gorgeous. Pretty dark now too. Let's see. Tech issues, yes. ADHD, check. Likes beer and history, check. Clumsy, check. Are we related? Potential. Mitt, Mitt says, by no means am I an electrician, but are these all-in-ones safe with an extension cord? Listen, man, here, I'm going to get my face on camera. I don't know if you can see me. Do I look like I have half a clue about anything I do? If I knew anything about electricals or wiring or anything, we wouldn't have had to do this stream 4 times. So I'll say this. So far, no fires. And every beer I brewed in Germany was running off of, no joke, daisy chained extension cords. So take that for what it's worth. So far, so good, I'd say. Gonna hit the fly sparge a few more times. That color is just so freaking beautiful. We definitely reached into Dunkelweizen territory. Maybe even a little too dark for that, but still gorgeous. Oh yeah, so that's the beautiful thing about the housing I lived in Germany. Yes, Europe uses 220, and America is 110. I think you're right about that. What I'll say is that One, I'm pretty sure this is dual voltage. You just have to flip the switch and adjust it. I could be wrong about that. I don't remember. But the housing I lived in was outfitted to have both American and European power outlets. So it didn't really matter because I did have a 220 European brewing system from Klarsteiner. Not the best, but yeah, I was able to run two systems at once over there, one on the American outlet and one on the European outlet. It was pretty fun. Let's see. I'm just waiting for some of this drainage to get down. That way we can see what volume we're at. I typically do a full volume mash. So after like we're looking at like grain absorption and stuff like that, we're usually looking at anywhere between a half gallon to a full gallon worth of absorption that I will end up topping off with some sparge. But we're not using a whole lot of grain this time, so I'm not expecting the absorption to be too great. But this is a controversial topic. I've had this conversation with multiple brewers in the past. Have y'all ever done cold water sparging, like to reach your target volume, just running through the grain bed with like that amount of cold water? I've seen some experiments and some articles online that say it doesn't have an impact. And I've done some brews where I've done it and I haven't noticed anything. But one of the things I've seen people get most passionate about in in brewing debates is cold water sparging. So just curious if y'all have any thoughts about that. Ooh, spot on. We're pretty spot on here. Let me get the camera. We are right at the five, or just under the 5 gallon. I think we need about a gallon top up. So a little bit more absorption than I would have thought. But maybe over a prolonged mash like that, we might see a little bit more than usual. But uh, pretty spot on. Yeah, let's run some sparge on it. Be right back. Getting water. Oh God, Dickie's beer reviews. You got me paranoid. Can y'all hear the audio? He says he can't hear anything. Now I'm paranoid. I see the audio levels moving, so I'm going to assume that's a yes. I'll be right back grabbing water so we can do the sparge. Oh my God. See what I was talking about? Oh my God. Woo! I wish I could blame this clumsiness on alcohol, but I cannot. This is just my daily life. Oh man. All right, we're gonna let that drain out for a little bit, and then we should be right at our target volume. Yep. Thank you, for going easy on me, Mitt. I'm hoping y'all can still hear me. I still have my audio volume. Yeah. So here's my thing. There's a streaming software that I'm going to start working with. That's going to allow me to use multiple camera angles. That way, we can stay static, and I can just flip between like one camera angle with like this wide view. We can get a top down angle, as well as a potential third camera where it's just like staring at me in my chair. So like there's none of this like running around panicking and like accidentally pulling cords and knocking shit over. So uh yeah, like I said, I've been taking notes throughout this entire thing about how I can improve on these streams. So any recommendations y'all got would be greatly appreciated. But definitely a learning curve here I'm trying to get over. But yeah, we're about to hit our target volume. I might add, if we're thinking about evaporation and boil off, we might need to maybe add a quarter to a half gallon more, because at the end of this 60-minute boil, I'm expecting us to be right at 5 gallons, because I think that's where we're going to need to be if we're going to try to hit our target starting gravity. But, you know, we'll just see how it goes. I think we were just above 4 gallons before I did the cold water sparge. So let me shake this grain out a little bit more, and we might be able to get right on into the boil. We've already started heating up. I can already see the temperature getting pretty high, dropped because of the cold water sparge, but we're almost there. Damn it, man, second time. I'm stirring too aggressively. Gorgeous. All right, we are right below the 5.5 gallon line. I think I am going to add an extra like 1/4 gallon to it, quarter gallon. Just cold water sparge again on top of that. That way, I just don't want to get under volume at the end of this boil. So let's pitch it one more time. All right, here we go. All right, we're about exactly where we want to be. So now we just got to let that boil kick off. What I like to do is you'll notice in this secondary pot right here, this is my 10-gallon propane kettle that I use for propane brewing days. What I like to do with the actual grain bucket is you're never going to be able to get full all the water completely drained out of your mash, regardless of how much you sparge or anything like that. So I will let it just kind of collect and aggregate over here, and if we end up with too much evaporation loss, I will take that and add that back in. I've heard some people complain, or they get afraid of potential getting like astringency from doing something like that, over sparging, over extracting, stuff like that. But I don't know, in my experience, I've never had that. I think that's, again, one of those kind of unfounded home brewing fears, but I don't know, I could be wrong. I'm definitely interested if y'all have any experience or any opinions on that. But otherwise, let's kick back and watch this bad boy start to boil. We're already starting to get some good foam aggregation on top. Pretty excited about that. Looks like we're getting decent heat. Looking at the temperature gauge, we are already almost at 170. So, I mean, we're building steadily. And again, as soon as we see that break, we're going to go ahead and instantly start pitching in our hop additions, 1 ounce of EKG at boil. And we are going to start the 60-minute timer. Just real quick, real simple boil session. But otherwise, until then, let's just watch it go. Oh, man. Let's see. Yes. Dickies, cheers right back at you, my friend. It has been a long time since I have seen you as well. Glad you could stop by. Glad you could say hi. Man, not going to lie. The stream hasn't gone as smoothly as I wanted it to today, but there is always something that goes wrong on all my brew days, and I would much rather it be technical issues on the stream than having something like my, kettle stop working, or like I end up spilling out all the beers or something like that. So pick and choose which battles it is you want, and I'll take technical issues over bad beer every day. Fuck off, fly. The number one thing I got to figure out is how to get a mic stand working over here. Dude, these flies drive me crazy. Dude, there is nothing more audacious, no one more confident, no one I hate more than Arizona flies, dude. They just have the absolute gall. They're not afraid of anything, and they will be all up in your business all day long. Yeah, I don't know. It's starting to look pretty good, I think. I also see a lot of brewers saying that they like try to scrape off all the hot break on top. Like, I guess there's like an old myth, rumor, maybe truth, I don't know, that if you leave it in, it causes headaches. That's another one of those things that I've never experienced. I always just leave all the hot break on top. It doesn't even bother me. What do y'all think? Mitt says he's curious to see what kind of boil I get with this kind of system. Well, I'll tell you, my friend, it's going to be vigorous. It's going to be rambunctious. It's going to be rolling. I don't know. Like I said, the boils that I have with this system, they're usually pretty manageable. But if you're using something with like a ton of buildup on top, particularly in my experience with uh, wheat beers, the risk of boil over is high. And it does kind of suck because the fear is that with a propane system, when you start reaching that boil over, you can lift it up off the heat source, right? Well, you can't do that here since the heat source comes with the system, right? So one of the things I somebody told me about the spoon method, which if you don't know, it's where you just literally put the spoon on top of the kettle, and surprisingly, that has worked rather well for me. So that's why when people talk about like all these like potential myths or maybe urban legends, stuff like that, I take it with a grain of salt, but hey, maybe there's some truth to it as well. The spoon method usually works for me, preventing boil overs. Man, these flies. Ugh. Let's see, what temperature are we at now? Ooh, we're at 176. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Looks like we're climbing about a degree a minute. So not super fast, not vigorous, but I also don't know if I turned on the turbo jets on the other side. It has two different settings. One of them reaches boil much, much, much faster, but it also sucks a lot of energy. Some of the times where I've blown fuses in my house, it's been with that like cranked up version. I feel like all of us sitting here waiting for wort to boil reminds me of that old phrase. How, like, what is it? A watched pot never boils, or something like that. The anxiety, the anticipation, it's killing me. Mitt says, to answer you, he used to skim the protein break, but now he just stirs it in for about 15 minutes prior to starting the timer for my usual 60-minute boil. Yeah, I think I have a kind of similar approach. If I was just going to add the hop additions directly in as soon as the boil break happened, then I would be stirring them in, and I would just be mixing in the protein as well, just into one big happy sludge as it gets like reabsorbed back into the beer. When I'm doing the hop spider, which I'll probably be doing for this brew, I unless it's causing like excessive boil overs, or if I'm seeing it just like bubble up way too aggressively, I usually just kind of let it ride, and I'll let the like boil kind of break it up. And as I go around stirring it every now and then, making sure nothing's sticking to the bottom, it most of the time just feels like it gets reabsorbed, you know. But I don't know. I'm pretty casual with shit like that because I won't use Werflock or anything like that unless I'm really really trying to clear up a beer. But I don't know. Just I never really worry too much about stuff like that. But I know some people will take it super serious. Mitt says, now with the haze craze, everyone seems to like these days. Who cares about clarity, right? To a certain degree, sure. I don't know. You got to think about like clarity from a historical standpoint. It's relatively new, you know, like people really didn't focus on clarity so much until we started seeing like paler malts come into play. But even then, you know, still a lot of hazy, a lot of rustic, unfiltered beers. So, if I'm brewing a lager, the vast majority of the time, I'm going to do everything I can to just clean that up because I want it to have that nice brilliance, you know, to it that everybody was so fond of in the beginning with the pale malt movement, especially in the pale lager revolution, you know, when we started seeing Helles and Pilsner rise to the top. But like I'm in a darker beer, I'm not going to go out on my way to try to clear it up, you know. Like if there's a little mud in my porter or my stout, I think I'll be okay. But IPA is kind of hit or miss. Really just depends on what I want. All right, let's check where we're at temperature wise. We are at about 186 right now. So we're on our way. On our way. I just really wish this thing would. I hate waiting. So sometimes I wish like brewing could just like happen like that, you know, just instantaneous. Like, yeah, let's go ahead and get the extraction out. Let's go ahead and get the boil started. Just let's make it happen. And I know there's some systems out there that reach boil pretty quickly, but that ain't the one I got. Man, but do y'all see what I see talking about with the flies? They're just fucking so annoying. I don't want them to touch my spoon. It looks like we got a lot of the grain particulates out. That constant manual recirculation seems like it did its trick. Yeah, all in all, good day of brewing, I think. Worst day of brewing beats the best day at work. Yeah, I'm excited about this. Let's see. Trying to. One of the things I was looking at with CrystAles is that the guy who runs Horse Brewing, he was like, if you want the like absolute best out of it, you have to like do prolonged aging on it and stuff like that, which is why he'll do like 3-4 different types of barrels on his like 20% CrystAles, which is wild. But I don't know. I feel like if we're going lighter in intensity, I don't think it'll have as much of a need. But either way, still a fascinating, interesting innovation in this, because I've started seeing like, I think when it was originally pushed, he was trying to push it as a crystal wine, kind of like a barley wine or a wheat wine or even a rye wine. But somehow the like perspective of it changed to CrystAle instead of Crystal wine. But it is interesting. I mean, it's essentially the same concept. And I've been toying around with that idea for a long time. Like, what does an oat wine look like? What does a, like, I would say rice wine, but that would just be sake. But like, let's say we took like a, I don't even know the right word for it, like a rice lager. And what if we just ramped the rice aspect up to the maximum? Like, does that become rice wine? I don't know. These are the things that bounce around inside my skull while I wait for this kettle to boil. Okay. Starting to see a little movement in here. Starting to see a little break going on right around here. Yep, starting to separate. Any minute now. Let's move that spoon so we got a better angle, better view. I really want to go grab another seltzer, but I'm afraid that if I do, that's when the break's going to happen. Yeah, risky for the biscuit. I'll be right back. Let me know if it boils. Nah, looks like we're still good. Still good. Grip it and rip it, boys. Cheers. The anticipation is killing me. Or so, because I got to go throw my phone on the charger. Crap. Be right back. Let me know if it boils. That's 100% absolutely true, Pat. A watch pot does indeed never boil, but I mean, that's content, baby. Also, somebody sent me a PM and said that advertisements are on here. Is that the case? Are y'all seeing ads? Because if so, I'll try to turn that off. There we go. Okay. Oh man, we are so close. We are right on the cusp. We're at 198 degrees, give or take about 4 degrees for the mash and boils internal thermometer, but we're right there. Oh, yep. Starting to get a little activity right there. I can see the coloration change going on within all the buildup. That's my guess. Oh man. I was about to say I would be willing to bet money that the break happened right there, and I was right as soon as I said it. Come on, baby. Let's go. All right, I'm going to set this microphone down real quick just in case we start seeing a flash boil, because I do not want to be fighting this one-handed. This bowl is actually looking kind of mellow so far. Fingers crossed, knock on wood and everything, but at the beginning of this looks like it's actually rather manageable. We still have about a solid about 10 degrees before the thermometer is showing like true boiling temperature. So, you know, there's still plenty of opportunities for this to go off the rails. But I got to say, what I was expecting with this much potential residual sugar and this much protein, especially from that caro wheat. The caro wheat is supposedly like really, really high in protein. It's supposed to be like one of the best things you could add for head retention. So I was kind of worried with such a huge percentage of that in there. I think like 40%. I was expecting just boil over city here. So things are actually looking okay right now. Way better than expected, I'd say. We're gonna have to figure out a light situation here in a second. Sun's setting pretty quick. Oh, I don't know if that helped at all, but I turned on my studio light, so we'll see what happens. Let's see. We got some comments. Patrick Sandy says, so in the one article on the CrystAle, it talks about Brad Clark from Private Press Brewing. You've known Brad for years. He used to be the head brewer at Jackie O's in Athens, Ohio. Awesome. Love the connection. Also, love Jackie O's. Jackie O's makes some solid beers. Back in the day, I mean, their Headhunter was great. They had some amazing stouts, some decent IPAs. But yeah, I mean, their big malty beers was really good. So it makes sense that he would try to get plugged in on the CrystAle, the cutting edge of it. So looks like we are reaching a steady and pretty consistent boil going on here. The thermometer still says we're a few degrees off, but that's a rolling boil if I have ever seen one. Please feel free to disagree if you so choose, but that looks rolling to me. Let's go ahead and drop the hop spider in, and let's add some hops, and let's get this timer started for the last 60 minutes of this stream. Let's do it. It's always so frustrating when I add the hop spider to it because it like drops the temperature down of like 1 or 2 degrees. I've even actually stalled a boil before adding a too cold hop spider, but this has been sitting in my garage out here in the Arizona heat, so hopefully we don't see anything too detrimental happen, but let's see what happens. Yeah, it looks like we lost a little vigor there, but mostly it still looks about the same. I'm gonna try to adjust the camera here because I noticed that the lighting change is making it a little hard to see the activity in the dark beer. So bear with me here for a second. Dang, it's gonna be hard to adjust. Oh, man, I apologize, y'all. The absolute darkness of this wort, it is just going to be very hard to pick up on the contrast of this lighting. I got the garage light on. I got my studio light on. You can see that in the upper right hand corner of the frame. It's just really hard to meet that contrast of how dark that beer is. So, uh, apologize for that. But let's go ahead and add some hops. I'll try to get some Gonzo style shots in there so y'all can see it up and close. So, if it fogs up a little bit, I apologize. I'll fix it as soon as I can. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, let's re-clarify what's happening. I'm about to add 1 ounce of EKG, and we'll start that 60-minute boil time. So EKG hops going in now. Man, I'm surprised by that. The usually on a beer that is in theory going to be this heady, when I add in the hops, especially pellet hops to the hop spider, I usually see a pretty big reaction. I wonder why that is. This this is so tame. It almost seems uneventful. That's pretty wild. Pat says, also fun fact, Brad went to college in Athens with Kyle, who owns Clawhammer Supply. Oh man, that is a small world. Michael says that is at a full boil. I could not disagree more. No, I'm kidding. No, it just kind of went very gentle into the boil. No big foam up, no big hot break, anything. Just kind of happened. Not complaining. A good uneventful brew means an easy brew, so I take it. Take it when I gets it. Pat says later I was rewatching some of your old videos. I was like, SOB, you have a very similar beer on the channel. I've had a very similar beer on the channel. What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Pat? I was rewatching some of your old videos. I was like, SOB, you have a very similar beer on the channel. Similar to a CrystAle or a wheat wine, because I know I have a wheat wine on there. I did a wheat wine cider hybrid, and it was pretty good. Memoirs of a Man House podcast. Sorry, I'm late. Yep. That's my boy Chris. That was that podcast I was telling y'all that we started earlier, that I was talking about earlier. So glad you checking in, Chris, man. Happy to have you here. We're on the final leg of this brew day. So hold on, look up one comment. Pat says I've known for Brad. He used to be the head brewer at Czechio's in Athens. Small world. He started their barrel program. Also, fun fact: Brad went to college in Athens with Kyle, who owns Clawhammer Supply. So my idea instantly came into my head when I started my recipe. Later, I was rewatching some of your old videos. I'm still hung up on which of my old videos you're talking about, but if I got in your way, I apologize, man. I do that. Yeah. Yeah, Chris, I told him that we used to get wild back in the day. I told him absolute risk of Jail time and complete degeneracy over here. All right. No, I didn't tell them about my grandma's garage brew. Let me stir this bad boy up. I'm gonna try to adjust that light one more time, see if I can get a little more color going on in there for the camera. But I will tell that story in just a second because that one was wild. Is that better? Is that better or is it worse? I think that looks better. You're able to see like actual activity going on in there. Usually I don't like to have glaring white lights blasting through my scenes, but in this case I think it's actually pretty cool. Plus it's a little cinematic with the steam going over it. All right, I dig it. All right, cool. All right. Let me stir this bad boy up and I'll tell that story. See that? Y'all see that? That's how much that hop spider actually collects. It collects so much like green hop sludge going on. So super beneficial. I love the hop spider. It's one of the better investments I got. Earlier, Mitt was talking about how he wants to make things easier on his brew days. That's one of the things I would recommend to make your life easier, man. A nice hop spider makes cleanup a hell of a lot easier, in my opinion. Let's see. So, okay, Chris was talking about this the first time I ever brewed a lambic. I had this idea that I wanted to brew just the craziest beer I could possibly brew. So I was out there drinking saisons. I was out there drinking lambics left and right, and I was collecting all the yeast at the bottom of the bottles, all the dregs. So the plan was I was going to try to brew my very first ever lambic, and kind of like I was talking about earlier, I went through the whole process of. We did the prolonged mash, we did the decoction, multiple kettles going on. And it turned out being a pretty fun brew day, honestly. But here's the problem. I wanted to brew it in my hometown of Alabama, Alabaster, Alabama. But I was living up in Virginia at the time. And I wanted to brew because I wanted to brew with my friends and my family at that time, and I just didn't see how there was any way I could transport 5 gallons of, soon to be lambic soon, 3 years soon. But what we ended up doing is we convinced my grandmother, who I don't know. I honestly don't know if she's ever been drunk in her life. She is like a proper Southern lady, you know what I mean? Debutante style, but she's a sweet lady, and she doesn't you wouldn't expect 5 gallons of beer to be kicking it in her house. So her house was a beautiful brick house with a subterranean basement, so the temperature was perfect for we could have lagered beers down there if we wanted to, but what we ended up doing was we let that thing just run wild. And I asked my grandmother and I asked my friend Chris, who's on the podcast with me, to just every couple weeks go and just make sure that the airlock, the bubbler, was still filled with water. That way it didn't dry out or anything. And man, this thing went wild for like 2.5 years. This thing just fermented like crazy. We saw like the massive pellicles, then we saw it like burn out and become the more like the ropey pediococcus style fermentation, and then we saw the Brett come back and clean it up. It was trippy. One day I want to brew a mixed culture beer like that in a big glass carboy, and I want to have like a live stream going. I would love to see like a time elapse of lambic going wild. But at the end of about the third year, my grandma, she had pomegranate trees growing in her backyard, and we harvested pomegranates. We maciated the lambic with pomegranates, and we took her favorite red wine, which is from a local winery in Alabaster, Alabama, which, not known for its wine, I'd say, but still made a decent product, I think. And we aged some oat chips on that in the red wine, soaked it up, and we added the pomegranate. And man, honestly, without a doubt, I know I'm biased because I made it, and it was so important to me, because it was a reflection of my friends, my family, things of that nature, as well as like my own hard work making it and designing it. But honestly, one of the best beers I've ever had. It was just really good. Now, everyone else probably thought it was way too acidic, like enamel rotting, but I don't know. It was a good showcase of like how beers play such an important, like the perception of them is the moment, that's what makes good beer to me. It's like a good beer is only had if you're having a good moment with it. So I don't know. That was a fun little stroll down brewery lane. So yeah. Well, I definitely do want to brew another lambic one day. When I get into a position where I'm a little more stable, I would love to just brew another lambic, let it run wild. I think I've brewed 2 other lambics, over the course of like the past like 10 years. And I have this bad habit. I'll start brewing a lambic, I'll leave it in somebody else's basement, and then I will move away. Years and years later, I make it the responsibility for the completion and the bottling of that beer. That's someone else's problem. My job is to brew it and leave it in your basement. So if any of y'all want me to brew a lambic in your house, just invite me over. Ugh. Oh man, a lot of people popping in now. So let's see, scrolling back up to the top. Chris says it was the first time he'd ever seen someone make beer. I was like, yeah, that's why I wanted to do it. One, because it was so buck wild, but 2, I just wanted to do it with like my friends and family and everything. So that was exactly what I wanted. Apex, what are you making? Glad you asked. So what I am making is something called a CrystAle. The complexities of it is really long. I've explained it like 5 or 6 times. I'm sure some of the people in here would hate for me to say it again, but I'll summarize it like this. It is a beer that should not be able to be made, but I'm collaborating with my friend Patton here. He goes by Banty Brewing, and together we are working on trying to figure out the secrets of how to make this beer work. So the reason it shouldn't work is because the ingredients we're using are not inducive to making beer. So it's pretty wild. OG, glad to see you. How are you? Mike says, my third and final beer ever I tried to brew mega years ago was Rotbusser, made with molasses, interesting, oatmeal, and honey. It burnt on my stove. Got the recipe in a mag. Have not seen much on the web. Interesting. Rotbusser. That sounds familiar, but honestly, I could be conflating it with something else. Rotbusser. I've heard of molasses beers. Oh. Are you talking about Kottbusser with a K? If you're talking Kottbusser, I know Kottbusser. Never heard of Rotbusser. But I do know Kottbusser. Kottbusser is a fascinating beer style. I would love to cover that in the future. I didn't know it had molasses in it. If it is now, if you're talking about something completely different than a Kottbusser with a K, I have never heard of Rotbusser. The only thing I could think of is it maybe the molasses imparted a red color, since root would be German for red. So that's the only thing I could really think of that might play a role in it. Maybe it's just a funky naming convention, but if it's a unique beer style, I need to know about it more. OG Raver Babe says, who gets to be the taste testers? Well, I plan on bottling it, so we're probably going to wind up with about 24 bottles worth of this, and I'm definitely sending some to Pat over at Banty Rooster Brewing. That way me and him can hot swap our two out and compare it to each other. The reason we're brewing this is there's like one brewery out there who makes these on the reg, and there's some other breweries who, you know, dabble in it on the occasion, but their bottles are insanely expensive and they're incredibly hard to find. I've only been able to find one, and it cost me a freaking arm and leg to get it. So I can't really make a true overview of the style unless we're able to get more examples. So that's why I enlisted Banty to help me out with this. That way me and him together could create at least 2 more examples. We can see if it's worthy of being officiated. OG Raver Baby, how long does it have to sit until it's ready? Well, I'll tell you this. Based off of the yeast strain I'm going with, I'm expecting an initial fermentation to last maybe like a week or 2, and then I will expect maybe a maturation period of an extra 30 days, maybe. And then we're going to talk about maybe a week or 2 in the bottle before I would be willing to let somebody drink it, just to make sure everything's stable. But if it all turns out like shit, nobody else but Panty is going to get to try it, because I don't really like releasing my beers when they're absolute failures. I'll admit that they are, and I'll admit on camera I've done it before, but I don't usually like to let other people taste the failure. I like to be the judge. Interesting. Okay, Michael, you said 100% confirmed Rotbusser. I will have to do some deep dive on that. If I can get some actual teeth into some actual usable, viable information, I'll try to run that down as an actual video topic. I got it saved in my search results. So let's see. Let's cut this down to just Rotbusser. Interesting. I'm fascinated by that. If you could give me any more information about it, you said you got it out of a magazine. If you know what magazine it happens to be from, I might be able to do some archive searching and do that. I have access to a lot of like databases. Memoirs. Chris says, what's your favorite type of base for the brew as far as taste goes? Oh man. Okay. It really depends. There's a base malt called Maris Otter. It's a English malt, if I remember correctly. And it just, I don't know. It feels like a hug. It's just the perfect balance between sweet, toasty. It's just delicious. Absolutely love it. If I could brew beers using exclusively Maris Otter, I might. There's a great synergy with that and Mosaic hops as well. They literally call it MOM IPAs, MOM, Maris Otter, and Mosaic. And those are insanely good pairings. Absolute perfect synergy. Pat says, I have an unusual style we are going to brew. Pat, please enlighten me. You know I love unusual styles. Apex says, do you make wines? I have made a strawberry wine in the past. I've made lots of mead, which is a honey wine. But as far as like straight up grape wines, like traditional wines, no, I don't. I'm not a big wine drinker myself, but I do like to toy around with unusual stuff. I can't remember where it was, but someone let me try a watermelon wine one time, and it blew my mind how good it was. So maybe one day I might do like a watermelon wine. I've been pretty fascinated and pretty interested in raw wines, which are I honestly closer to lambic than they are anything else. So if I could brew something along the lines of a wild wine, yeah, I might be interested in that. My mom can make some really good Mustang berry wine, dude. I love Mustang berries. That's crazy. That's one of those things you don't expect to hear very often. If they're what I'm thinking they are, Mustang berry are, yeah, muscadines, right? Yeah, man. Uh, I so muscadines, Mustang, they're insanely good. If you ever get the opportunity, if you're interested in Mustang berries or muscadine grapes, you should also look up something called scoppernongs. I'll type that into chat. They're another type of wild growing indigenous grape prominent in the southern United States. Scoppernong. I've made a beer using Scoppernong grapes before. It was really, really good. They're a little more tart than muscadines, but shit, if you have a readily available source of muscadines, we might need to talk. I would love to brew a muscadine beer, especially since I've been focusing on wine beer hybrids recently. Maybe I could do a little mixture of like a wino beer or a beer wine hybrid with muscadines, and also maybe tie in the wild wine aspect to it. All very fascinating, very interesting. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab my phone. That way I can sit down in the chair and show you all my dogs. All right, here we are. I know y'all are really only here for the feet pics. But let's see. Pat says, love both. Yeah, absolutely, man. If you ever get to try muscadines or scoppernongs, highly recommend that to everybody. I'm particularly partial to scoppernongs because I like tartar, more sour things, but I will eat muscadines until I throw up. So absolutely love them. Would love to be able to experiment more with them. They're just impossible to get out here where I'm at. People have never even heard of them. So it's very much a Southern thing, I think. Man, really appreciate y'all showing up like that. It makes me feel good. Apologize for all the technical issues earlier. I told Chris over at Memoirs of a Madhouse, our podcast, I was telling him that, I just got to learn to get more comfortable and more familiar with live streaming, because we're trying to like promote that over, on different platforms on Twitch and stuff like that. And I was like, there's no better way than me to get used to it than just sitting down and talking about something I'm like intimately familiar with, which is, beer and brewing. So this is maybe the start of a more consistent thing. So all the show out I've gotten from y'all has been absolutely amazing. Even through all all the stream crashes, but I promise we'll improve and we'll keep doing this. It's been fun. But man, okay, hold on. I'm still hung up on that. Oh, Pat says you'll have to wait when you're talking about that was like, a couple minutes back. You said, LOL, you'll have to wait. I'm assuming you're talking about that interesting beer style. Man, that's a bummer. I want to know. I want to know. We have Mustang berries growing like crazy at my mom's house. Apex. DM me, PM me, whisper me, whatever it's called. Get in touch, my man. We might have to work out some deals. We might have to figure something out. There's got to be some way. I know muscadines are pretty sensitive to like rotting, but I'm sure there's some way we can figure out how to get those transported over here. But I would love to brew a beer with some muscadines. That would be awesome. Um, we are coming up on the time limit now. We're about to start our 30-minute hop edition. Looks like the boil's still going rather vigorously. I'm genuinely, guys, I'm rather surprised that this is not overflowing and spraying everywhere, which is typical of my wheat beer brewing. Maybe all the quote unquote, maybe actually non-fermentable sugars coming from these crystal malts is maybe enhancing the viscosity. I don't know. I don't know what would kill a rollover, but I'm happy it's not happening. So great victory all around. All right, we're about exactly 2 minutes away from our next hop edition. So, crap. To all my brewers out there, you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to take a gravity reading before we started the boil. That's a bummer. So our true SG might be a little obscured, but I'm going to go ahead and isolate a little sample of it anyway, and we'll run it through the reader, and we'll see what we're sitting at. Damn it, man, that really bums me out. I got too caught up in it. Give me 1 second. My God, would y'all just look at this color? Absolutely gorgeous. God, that is like a rich mahogany. Anyways, we're going to pull the sample and we're going to set it off to the side, let it cool down. That way we can run it through my refractometer, and we can get timer hit. And we can try to get a reading and see if we actually were successful in getting any sugar extraction. So let's see what happens. No. Shut up. Yeah, man, this camera's going to die before the end of the stream. That's like the 6th time I dropped it. All right, but it looks like it's fixed. All right. Let's see. Pat says, wait to find out what my CrystAle is. I will shoot you a text about the beer style here later. Oh, man, I'm extremely excited. I'm very eager to know. I love beer styles, and I love especially weird ones. So you've got me all riled up on two fronts, both the CrystAle front and the mystery style. I am extremely excited to see what your take on the CrystAle is, since it can be so widely variable. But hold on, let's add these this 30-minute hop edition in here, and we will come back to the comments in just a second. We're getting a lot more activity on this one. Also, just because I'm starting to get paranoid with the hop additions, plus just the inherent nature of wheat malt, I'm going to do another recirculation, except this time I'm just going to pull it out the bottom and I'm going to add it directly into the hop spider. And I'm hoping that the hop spider will be able to act kind of the same way that the brew in the bag did, or that the grain basket did, where it'll kind of retain a little bit more particulate. That way we don't run the risk of scorching the bottom of our kettle. So I've done this lots of times, so it's nothing new. I usually do this every brew, but just in case y'all see me start recirculating and you're like, what the hell is he doing? That's what I'm doing. Oh man. Surprisingly, still, even in that recirculation, it looked rather clean. So, man, I guess we did a really good job on the sparging earlier and the recirculations throughout that really long mash. So, yeah, that makes me pretty happy that, again, the big fear here is the fatal flaw of the mash and boil system is that it has a sensor on the bottom underneath the boiling liquid that if too much gunk gets aggregated around it and it starts scorching, the whole system will shut off. And the only way to get it to turn back on is to lift it up from the bottom of the system, lift the whole thing up with the hot water and everything in it. And there's a little switch. No, there's a little switch you got to toggle. Man, this camera is going to be killed by the end of this. I just know it. Okay, let's get back into these comments. What was said? Apex says, I'm texting my mom about them, and she said, I mean, you could probably make beer out of it, but you would have to add grain and hops, so it'd probably be more of flavor of the beer with wild grapes. No, exactly. That's exactly what I'm going for, Apex. There's over the past couple of years, there has been a emergence of some unique beer styles called Wino beers, OENW, if I'm not mistaken. I could be, I'm not good with Latin. There's also been something called an IGA, an Italian grape ale. And both of these are beers that are 50 or up to 50% grape must, so grape juice, and 50% grain. So it's a new, it's not new. It is a beer style that is rapidly gaining familiarity. I'll say that you're not going to find it at every single bar, but when I was in Italy, I hunted down the Italian grape ale hard. I was drinking them nonstop every place I went to. So they're big in Italy. But that's exactly what I want to do. I would like to make a 50-50 muscadine beer hybrid. Our sample's almost cooled down. I don't know how I'm going to be able to actually get the actual footage of the refractometer doing its thing, but uh, worst comes to worst, I'll just read out the sample to you, or the numbers, the measurement. All right. Pack says, you using any adjunct? The guy from Horror seems to be an adjunct addict. Yeah, I thought about adjuncts. I decided not to use any adjuncts because I wanted the crystal malt aspect of it to shine through. And I wanted that to be the primary focus because I think it would be real easy to cover up. Like let's say that this beer came out too sweet, right? Because of unfermentable crystal sugars. If I was to add like an acrid acidic coffee to it, that's going to completely negate those results. So I am not, but I didn't want to put that restriction on you because I want to see your creativity at work. So if you want to use adjuncts in your version, run wild, man. There's no judgment here, and I think again it would be just as valid to the experiment because again it would be an example of the style, which does seem to frequently use adjuncts. You're right. Horace goes fucking a wild with them. Yeah, Pat says he's got a grape ale on tap. Delicious, man. I love them. They come at the end of July through August. Sick, Apex. Hey, man, like I said, just stay in touch. Let me know what the deal is, and I will gladly take them off y'all's hands, pay for them, whatever. However, we're just got to figure out how to actually get them here. I'm almost thinking I know how to do it, but I don't want to put that amount of work on y'all. There's a way that you can extract the juice and you can make it into a syrup, but that's a lot of work. And that's something I don't, like I said, I don't want to put on you. But if I remember correctly, Apex, you're from Bama? Was that right? Because if you're from Bama, I'll just swing by because I'll be there in August and I'll grab them. I'll just grab them from you personally. Texas. My fault. I'm a dummy. Well, either way, we can figure this out. I'm asking if she can freeze dry them and we can send them to you. Yeah, that would work. I live in Arizona, so depending on what part of Texas, don't put it here in the chat because I don't want you to dox yourself. But shit, worst comes to worst, I might be able to just swing through. We'll see what happens. But yeah, let's see. Pat says the big issue with grape ales is they taste horrible for the first month. They don't really come into their own to about 2 months of age. Yeah, I would agree that a lot of high percentage fruit beers have that problem. I don't know what necessarily you're saying the problem was with your grape ale, but when I did both a fresh pressed apple wheat wine and when I did a Scuppernong Saison, which is that wild grape, the sulfur compounds were off the charts. It was like rotten egg and fart city for months. In fact, it was so bad I even made an entire video dedicated to figuring out how to get rid of sulfur compounds from beer because it was just gnarly, man. But I'm sure with everything, every ingredient that you put into beer requires a different approach. It requires a different level of care from everything. Every adjunct is going to react differently. Like I know a lot of people who put like chocolate into it, but they weren't using like dark chocolate, like cacao nibs, and it just absolutely destroyed all their head retention. So like it really depends every ingredient. Super tannic. That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, yeah, grapes are all tannins, BB. So that does make sense. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure every type of grape, because like grape varietals have varying levels of tannins in them and stuff like that. The San Antonio area, my man, my man. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Let me pop this bad boy open. I got to look at the Google Maps. Okay, all right. I passed through Austin a lot, so that doesn't seem like it's too far out of the way. I could be completely wrong about that. Maps are very deceiving, you know what I mean? But I go up to Fredericksburg and I go to Austin a lot, so I can hit up the Jester King Brewery. So every time I'm on my way back to Bama, I'm swinging in through Austin. Plus, I keep wanting to try Franklin's barbecue, but it's so freaking hard to wake up early enough to stand in line. But man, we are here in this final stretch. We've got about 15 minutes left before flame out. I'm going to dump my wort chiller into it. We're going to take the readings on the refractometer just to see what it says, even though the results are skewed. I'm an idiot, big dumb idiot. But either way, we'll still be able to collect some type of data. So, we'll just take it with a grain of salt. But man, this has been a lot of fun. Oh, man. Apex says, my mom said that freeze drying the juice would be the best for sending in the mail. I would agree. Another option could be, do you know about canning? Like in the jars canning, for like preserves. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to put y'all out. I don't want to make it too much work for y'all. But we could, I mean, there's lots of options. You could either add, you could do like a canning where it would pasteurize all the potential microbes inside of it. You can also boil it and reduce it down to a syrup, which is very much in line with how Italian grape ales are made, or at least some of them. In Sardinia, the island off of Italy, they will actually make grape jelly almost, and they will put that into their beers to get the grape flavor in it. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, canning it, freeze drying it, all that stuff. Oh yeah, I know how to can. Trust me, my mom loves a can. I'm just saying, I there's lots of different potential out there for how to do it. But either way, I would greatly appreciate that, and I would certainly compensate you for your time. We can work out prices and deals and all that stuff. Just hit me up, because a good muscadine beer, man, that just sounds heavenly right now. Fantastic. Good to hear it. Bearded Viking says, let me get a sip of that. What do you want? What do you want a sip of? The boiling vat? or some of this Happy Dad Cherry Seltzer. Not sponsored. Man, I've switched hard over to seltzers recently because it is just so freaking hot out here in Arizona. I am unprepared, man. So that seltzer, I don't know. It's like lighter on the tummy, so it just it goes down easier than beer. I can only drink beer in the uh I can only drink like beer in the shade indoors with the AC on. I can't. If I was sitting out here drinking beer in this garage after this like 6 hours of streaming, I would have already collapsed. Whoa, Bearded Viking says, not the seltzer. I'm not a sorority. Hey, you watch your mouth. All right. Seltzers are a respectable drink. And under the regulations of the federal government of the United States of America and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency, I will have you know that seltzers, as long as they are derived from either sugar or malt sugar, so sucrose or maltose, they are to be classified, sold, and marketed as beer. So, take that. Apex says, if I send you some once you're done, I want to try some. Apex, absolutely, my man. No worries. I would be willing to go all the way down there and film myself picking the muscadines. Like that would be some good footage, some good content for the video. So no matter what, you will get some of this, I assure you. But like the extent of the involvement here, I am absolutely willing to to work with you on. Hell yeah, man, says Apex. Bearded Viking says, I drink Scope if that's the only thing we had. Not saying they aren't alcohol. I'm saying, and the federal government is saying, seltzers are beer. What's in the boiling pot? That's beer, my man. Big, hefty, hot pot o' beer. Hey, it's not a lie. It's just classifications. I mean, ultimately, we could have debates all day about what the definition of a beer is. In fact, I've been trying to write that script for a video for years. Many people will say beer is defined by malt, water, hops, yeast. But what about the Groot? What about the Groot? How quickly we forget about the Groot. It has no hops. So is it not beer? Okay, let's take it even further back. Let's look at, the ancient beers of Sumeria, Mesopotamia, Egypt, even. It's just bacteria, maybe probably yeast, but malt and water. We're missing out even some of the ingredients that Groot has. The definition of beer is wild. It's hard to determine, hard to define. It's all esoteric. Actually, it's funny you say Groot. Yeah, it's actually depending on where you're from. Yeah, just like that. Or Gruit or Groot. Bearded Viking says, I'm so proud of you for streaming, man. Are you enjoying it? I've had fun today. There's some learning curves I definitely need to figure out. My stream has crashed like 4 times throughout this because I found out that, or I have discovered that on the YouTube streaming interface, if your mic or your camera gets unplugged, you can't go into the settings and reconnect it. So you just have to end the stream and start over. Which it's a bummer because like looking at all the metrics over these past like 5-6 hours have been interesting and crazy to say the least. Definitely surprising. But is it something I want to continue to do? I think this was eye-opening. So yes, I want to, but I don't think I want to until I can get a streaming setup for here. I'm gonna need like 3 different camera interfaces because I want an over the top one so we can always be looking down. I want one facing me where I can flip to it where people can see me ranting and talking. That way y'all don't just get the dogs like y'all are now. That's why I got to wear socks because all you weirdos. And I would also like to have one that's just a wide shot of the entire brewing setup because I got a lot of stuff going on different tables over here. And I think it would just be interesting to see all that. So I got to learn more about streaming interfaces to be able to set that up and adjust it. Also, my mic stand fell apart. That's why I'm holding it in my hand like a Neanderthal. Oh yeah, no, I get it. I know this is to be expected live. That's why I want to be perfect at it because I am better than everyone and I refuse to not be seen as such. No, I'm kidding. I just don't like to have mistakes. It puts you on a spot and it makes it weird. You know, I've just been very lucky that a lot of the people have followed me from stream crash to stream crash to stream crash. So I really owe them a big favor. Apex says, man, you should stream more. I would love to see more of this. Yeah. Yeah. I think there will be moves into streaming. This was one of my ideas of streaming content. And I have one other idea for streaming content that I'm going to try out next week, which will be in a more stable format and not requiring all this setup and all the camera switches. So those are my 2 concepts I have right now. And I'm going to test both of those out and I'm going to go back to the drawing board. So there may be a long break in between my second stream and my third stream, but y'all can always catch me over at Bearded Vikings when I'm jumping on his streams. You know, I may be doing that more often now that I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with it. And at the podcast that me and Bearded Vikings are working on, Memoirs of a Man House, y'all could jump on there because I want to try to like restream our streams onto that channel as well. So definitely check out Memoirs of a Man House. Check out Bearded Vikings. Yeah, we got a new episode coming Tuesday. So, and stay tuned for more streams on here probably. So, my mom just sent me a picture of Mustang wine she is making out of leftover cheese. You say that's wild. And Pat, hold on, Apex. What does that mean? what does that mean? She sent me a picture of Mustang wine she is making out of leftover cheese. Like she's taking the wild culture that you would use to make cheese and fermenting it into your Mustang wine. If so, that's wild and I love it. That's super fascinating and interesting. Pat says Discord, Twitch. So we will Bearded Vikings is over on Twitch. And that's where he streams, and I've been jumping on his streams over there. But what I want to do is restream his Twitch stream through our Memoirs of a Man House podcast YouTube channel. That way we're able to hit as many avenues as possible, because Bearded Vikings, he does his own streams individually and completely unique and divorced of me. He does a lot of awesome like video game and gaming content over there, as well as like some fun story times and stuff. But every now and then I hop on there and we do kind of like almost like a podcast stream where we just rant and talk and hang out and just be bros. So those are the streams which I would like to get on YouTube, but we got to work out those details. Apex says yes, so it is using leftover wine culture or leftover cheese culture. That's wild, man. That's super interesting. It's interesting because at the end of the day, fermentation is fermentation. It doesn't matter. But when you're using different microbes, different bacteria, different yeast strains, stuff like that, you're going to end up with a wildly different product. There's beers that are literally fermented with yogurt, and it creates a really, really sour, acidic profile. So That's interesting. I don't. I mean, I guess it would depend on what type of bacteria and yeast your mom is using in her cheese for how that profile is going to show up in the wine. I'm hella interested. Yeah, man. I think my Discord is Life is Brutal on YouTube. All put together one big. These fucking flies, man, they are driving me insane. They're like all over my arms and legs. They're driving me crazy. And Chris says, "No, we aren't divorced, not yet." Also, Chris, earlier you said, sorry, I skipped over it. You said you want to swerve the topic. What topic you want to swerve to real quick? Because we got about a few more minutes before our final hop edition and our flame out. This has been a rather mellow and uneventful boil. So happy all around, I'd say. Pat says, "Are you talking about those Turkish beers? Think they use yogurt?" So, we might need to talk about what you're talking about because I love turkey. I love everything about turkey. I haven't heard about any Turkish yogurt beers. I know there's a traditional beer style. Oh, you know what? You might be talking about the dang, its name escapes me right now, but I did a whole video on it. Those can have yogurt in it, but I think it's usually just a blended up bulgur rice mixture. But no, the beers I'm actually talking about are kettle sours. Some of my friends who were working in breweries in Virginia, like I showed up at the end of one of their brew days, and they literally dumped like tubs of Greek, low fat yogurt, just dumped tubs of it into the fermenting vessel. They locked it up and they said, "We'll come back Monday. That thing's going to be sour." And they were right. It runs rampant because it's all lactobacillus. It's multiple strains of lacto. Maybe you might get some like other bacteria going on inside of them, but I mean, pretty wild. So I guess it's not too strange to ferment alcoholic beverages with dairy cultures. Actually, at my local homebrew store, I saw that they had a buttermilk culture, and I was like, how funny would it be to do like a sour milk stout with a buttermilk culture? That would be interesting. Da, 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 da. Chris says, "Are we doing a pre-release tomorrow night?" Is tomorrow night Monday? Holy crap! Tomorrow is Monday. Uh, yeah, yeah, I'm down with that. Yeah. So, everybody, uh, go check out Bearded Vikings on Twitch, also his YouTube channel. But subscribe to the Memoirs of a Manhouse podcast, and we'll try to do a live stream over there. It's drastically different than what you're going to get here. Heads up, fair warning. But yeah, it's still like some really great content. So we've hit our final timer. It is time for the final hop edition and the flame out. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead. You know what? Actually, let's add the hops first, and then we'll cut the power. Again, we're going with some EKG, some classic English hops. Oh my God, they're gorgeous. Oh, they smell so good. Okay. All right. So the plan here, we're just going to let that cool down for just a second. Let that last hop addition kind of steep in. We already cut the power to it. So uh, we're not going to, the boil will eventually fade away. Also, this is what I was talking about. My mic arm broke. So now I look like a ridiculous person. But I'm going to have to get a mic stand just for this. But yeah, man, this has been a great brew. The plan here is that we're going to let that sit for just like a couple of minutes, let those hops really get absorbed in that final addition. And then we're going to add in the wort chiller to it real quick. And we want to add the wort chiller in while we're still near boiling temperatures. That way we don't accidentally inoculate all of our hard work with wild bacterium. So, or any type of wild yeast or anything. So if you add your wort chiller into a nice hot boiling thing, on top of, in addition to proper sanitization practices, it's already been wiped down, it's already been sanitized, but that's like an extra layer of protection that you can take to prevent spoilage of your beer. If anybody out there who doesn't know about brewing wants to get more interested into brewing, that's a fun little tip. A lot of people want to add the wort chiller to it after, it's already dropped too far down in temperature and you risk exposure. So yeah, take that, put it in your hat. Oh man. But man, super happy all of y'all showed up, tuned in. This has been absolutely phenomenal. Just been it really opened my eyes to the potential that we got here. I mean, wow. I don't know. I'm happy. I've always wanted to build up some type of community where we're able to like hang out, just talk about beer. That's the whole reason I do this, because I love talking about beer, and most people don't want to listen to me rant about beer as much as I want to. So maybe live streaming is the way to go, because y'all essentially sat through about 6 hours of me nonstop gob flapping. So if we can keep that up, I'm all about it. Or a quick sneak peek for what I plan on doing on the next stream. I've had some people say that they want me to bring back beer reviews, but I don't want to do that. I just don't have fun doing that. But I thought of a happy middle ground. Usually when I'm going through and I'm writing one of my beer history videos, I have to drink like, 10, 15 different examples of one particular style just so I can have a understanding of it. And there's one style I want to do a video on, and I have all the examples, and I was like, what if we just did the live stream where we go through and we taste all the different samples, and we can talk about it, make notes, we can build up the history, and we can build up the sensory profile, what to expect, what's common. So that's one of the ideas I have. I don't know. I got to work out the execution a little bit more. You wouldn't know it from this stream, but I do like to do a little planning. But yeah, that's the idea. Maybe shoot for that next Saturday, because I just don't want to sit back and pound like 6 beers and then have to go to work the next day. But let's go ahead and let's remove this hop spider. I want to show y'all just how much particulate it aggregates and how much it collects, and like it'll prove why I love the hop spider so much. And then we'll add in our wort chiller, and I think that'll be the we still have to take a refractometer reading. Okay, let's get this show on the road. There's still some usable beer in here, which is why I'm trying to drain it out. but the vast majority of that is all hop sludge. Like, that's a lot. All the way up to here. That's wild. That's only 3 ounces of hops, by the way. So if we were doing an IPA, you know, we could be looking at like 7 to 10 ounces, you know, like this whole thing would be filled to the brim. These flies. Let's get the camera in here to see that sludge. All right. So I know there's probably a bunch of people in here who do know what this is, but for those who aren't up on brewing, basically we have to cool the temperature of the beer down really quickly in order to pitch the yeast into it. If we pitch it in now, it'll be too hot, it'll die, and it won't ferment. If we let it take too long, then we run the risk of, again, exposing it to bacteria and wild yeast. So I actually hooked this up to like a garden hose, but I've actually made an adaptation for my sink. So I'm going to plug it up to my sink and we're going to run through and we're going to run cold water through the coils. What's up, man? Live streaming. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. What's up? Beer? I am making beer. What's going on? Oh, I ain't one. Ugh. We're live. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to have to remove this real quick. What happened? Right back. Walk away. Careful, it's very hot. All right, well, I'm not trying to cut that shit. We're just going to my kitchen. It is. Oh, all right. And that is end of stream. Had a lot of fun, y'all. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. And we'll call it a day here. Hey, Pat, Banty, really look forward to us working together on this collaboration. And I will shit. More people popped up real quick. All right, let's do the refractometer. I thought people were dipping out. Let's, but now you are back. As soon as I start trying to close out, everybody pops back in. Let's do the refractometer. Let's see what our gravity reading is, and then we're gonna close this bad boy out. 1 second. Okay, for those of y'all don't know, the refractometer, basically it's able to measure the amount of sugar content in wort. So the important part about this, especially for this particular brew, is that, like we said, we didn't know if we were actually going to be able to pull any extractable sugar from it. So being able to get a reading as, in general is going to be interesting, but it might be biased because we might be pulling non-fermentable crystal sugars from it, which could potentially skew the OG rating. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take this reading after everything goes through and ferments, the number should drop. And based off of how high of a number it drops down depends on what fermentable sugar was in there. So that's going to be a good bit of data. But secondly, we're going to be able to determine what its actual alcohol content is based off of how far it dropped down. So I'm going to try to figure out a way to get this onto the camera. As you can see, it's light based. We're running light through the refractometer, and it will. God, we'll see what I can do. But let's go ahead and add the sample to it. And I'll get a reading. I'll tell y'all what I see, and then I'll try to put the camera like eyeballs deep into it so y'all can see what I'm seeing as well. Let's see what happens. This is actually pretty useful that I got the light here because it'll like blast through this and right into my eyeballs. Okay, this is interesting. We're at exactly a perfect 8 bricks. Put that in chat real quick. 8 bricks. We're going to have to do a quick calculation conversion to see what bricks to SG is. All right. Let's see. But I'll say this, it doesn't seem very high. Okay. All right. Looking at our bricks based off of my bricks calculator. Let me grab the camera and pull it over here so y'all can see. All right. Based off the bricks calculator, we're looking at a SG of 1.0318, which means at best, we're looking at about 4.3% ABV. You know, give or take a couple percentage points, we might be able to squeeze out a 4.5. I would say that is a far cry from what we were originally projecting. I was really hoping to get like a 1.05, which would have put us at like 5% ABV. But still, I will say, I don't know. This could be hit or miss. So maybe we didn't prove that Crystal Malts could bump up the SG too high, but let me see if I can get the actual camera into the refractometer so y'all can see what I'm looking at. So, the adventures with CrystAle today. I don't know what the results are going to be, but I'm looking forward to it because that was the whole point of this. It was an experiment. We're going to see what happens. We're going to try to see what we can make out of this. Maybe we would have had better results if we did end up going with the full, hardcore, massive, grist amount. If we went wheat wine instead of wheat beer, but we went out of our way, 3-hour long mash, step to try to extract as much sugar as we could, and we're still underperforming. So I don't know, we'll just have to see what happens with this. I will make sure to keep everybody informed on this, but that's going to be the end of this stream tonight. But make sure y'all go check out Banty Rooster Brewing. Pat, he's in the chat. I also put his link down in the description because he's going to be doing kind of an accompanying brew to this brew day. And he said he's going to be posting videos and content. So check him out on Instagram. He makes some really interesting, fascinating beers, and I'm really happy to be collaborating with him. So hopefully his results will fare better. But just because we're not getting the ABV we wanted doesn't mean, or the potential ABV, and just because we didn't hit the gravity we wanted doesn't mean it's going to be a bad beer. Based off of all the samples I pulled, tastes pretty dang good, and it smells phenomenal. So hopefully things shake out, and even though we might not hit the targets we're looking for, we still might end up with a drinkable beer. So this has been essentially chapter 1 in the CrystAle Chronicles. So thank you all very much for tuning in for my very first live stream. Like I said, planning on doing this more often, especially since how much support y'all showed me today. I don't know how to sign off on these. I guess I'll just hit you with my normal YouTube sign off. Thanks for watching, everybody. Really hope you enjoyed. And remember, there is a story in every bottle, and that life is beautiful. Cheers, y'all. Bye.